Okay, so let's take a look at how you can plot ridge lines in so for that we will be using ggplot and ggridges as packages for drawing that data, right? So first thing, let's open our studio, and once we open this, what we will do is we will install these two packages. If you have any existing session running within our studio, you can close that, right? So here, install packages, we will check for ggridges, right? There are two of them. I will choose the lowercase one and install, right? So once that is installed, your next objective is to do the same for ggplot, right? So install packages ggplot2. This is the package that we need, right? So you can install that. I already have it installed and I can show you while writing the script. So create a new script and we add ggplot2, right? As you can see, it is available for me because I already installed that. Then we have ggridges, right? So we have option to plot the ridges. Now let's create a data frame with some data out of diamonds, right? So this is the data set out of which I will use total 1 to 100, and then let's see, I will choose color and depth for my data set, right? So once you have this particular data, what you can do is you can type in ggplot, use df, then AES, where we use x set to depth and y set to say color, right? Or color, should be color, right? So that's one thing. Next thing is we use density ridges, right? So we have the basic data. So let's see if everything is correct and we didn't messed up so far. So we are importing ggplot2, then ggridges. Next thing would be to check our data frame. So there seems to be can't subset columns that don't exist. So color doesn't exist, so I'll have to use color. So let's see. Okay, so the spelling mistake was the issue. So now I have data which I can view here in tabular form. As you can see, it has around hundreds of rows with 2 columns of data with color color in alphabet and depth next to that column, right? So we have that data. Next thing is ggplot function, which takes this data frame, then takes depth and color as 2 axis values. So it would be checked against color when x is the depth, right? Then geom density ridges is what will plot the ridge plot, right? So let's run this, and picking joint bandwidth, we have our basic ridge. This is in black and white, so we'll see how to add color later, right? There are a few things, however, you will have to check, like you will have to play with some data here, right? So like here you see you have some trails that you can cut and only keep your ridges, right? So inside this ridges function we can use rel min height equals to 0.009, right? So if I run this again, it should have some different output. So here you see trailing lines are removed and only ridges are available, so it's more clear now and visibility is better. Also you will notice this particular plot where we have depth versus color. So y-axis our color, x for depth, and their respective values. All of this according to this particular data, right? So we have managed to create the basic ridgeline plot. We also managed to cut the trailing tails, right? So we can also scale this. So instead of doing just this alone, I can also use scale set to 3, right? So if I run this and if I try to view this, I can see the scale, right? And the ridges will be a lot different now. Some of them are bigger than previous, and you will see total of 3 out of them being scaled, right? So scale value set to 3, you can experiment with these values, right? And your ridges will be responding to that as well, right? Now there is also fill color option. So let's see, if I choose fill set to light blue, so it should look like ocean now, right? Now here if you choose to use the data, that gives you ridges over every possible place within xy coordinate. You would have literally ocean like view with ridge plot, right? This is the fill which is in light blue, and also we have say alpha for transparency. So we use 0.5 as its value, and if you run this particular statement, you will have transparent ridge plot, right? So the next thing, there are a few more changes we can make. We can change the border color, line type, and line width as well, right? So let's take this to new line and choose border color for say 1, right? If I run this, it should show me, right? We got the border color set to 1, right? Now I can also change this to 4 and also add line width to 0.5 and line type set to, that should also work, right? Line type, or there is also always LTY, but as far as I know, the line type is what is visible, right? So if I run this, right, so LWD not found. I'm not sure why. Object LWD, so it took the dash instead of equals to. So let's run this, and we have our line width, line type. Also the border color is now changed. As you can see, earlier the value of 1 was keeping it black, now it is looking like blue. Also alpha transparency value makes it look transparent over each other, right? Now few things you can play with data is changing the color based groups, right? So with your AS values here, you can add fill set to color, right? So fill set to color, if you run, that should also change the overall output, right? Now the thing is, if you wish to use the gradient, you will have to make few changes as well. So fill set to, let's say, stat, and where we can pass on x, right? So apart from that, I will also have to add up cgeom underscore density underscore ridges and then gradient, because we are doing this for gradient, and then again concatenate with ridges function, right? The thing with scale, however, is here you will have to choose that, right? So let's see if I choose, right? So I will try and comment this part out, right? And here what I can do is I can use the scale and then fill, scale fill where it is. So scale fill where it is, and there we can choose C. So based on that our output for ridges would change, right? And here we can pass name set to depth, or maybe it's depth, right? So let me check, it's depth. Okay, so we pass depth, and then we can also set option to C for however it is output, right? So that's pretty much it for gradient. So if I run this, it should have some gradient output and it looks something like this. So you can experiment with some of these scale fill colors, viridies or some other, and your output should reflect, right? So far we have done our basic ridge line, then we remove the trailing tails, change the scale, then fill the color, border, line type, line width, then group based color. Also we just change the gradient in our ridge line, right? So we can also add quantiles addition here. So for that we will return our basic value for AES function with xy alone, right? Then next thing, I can basically remove this and add geo density ridges. So density ridges, and then quantile lines. We will add quantile lines. We will set them to true, right? And then alpha set to 0.75, right? So if I run this, it should add some good output here for quantiles. So if we check our plot, the quantile will be reflected in each ridges. So what we have done so far, again let me go through. We got basic ridgeline plot. We also managed to remove the trailing tails, change the scale, filled the color, added transparency, also changed border color, line type, line width, then changed the theme, added the gradient, right? Change the color based on group value, also changed quantile in the last example, right? So that's ridgeline plot in R.